This episode of I've Had It is brought to you by Booking.com. Since 2010, they've helped over 1.8 billion vacation rental guests find places to stay. That's billion with a B. Head over to Booking.com and start your listing today. Get seen, get booked on Booking.com. So are we supposed to start the podcast? All right, patriots, gay triots, they triots, black triots, brown triots. Welcome to America's top DEI podcast, where we like to share our petty grievances, which have turned into enormous grievances in this fight to cling on to democracy. Pumps, my illustrious and world famous co-host, the head beaver in charge. What have you had it with?
Okay, what I've had it with is people that ask you for your opinion and then argue about it. Like, you asked me. I didn't volunteer. I've gotten very good about being asked. I don't, unless it's my children, of course, I insert myself into their lives. But I typically try not to insert myself into random conversations that I don't care about. But then when I'm asked for my opinion and somebody argues, my new thing is, you asked, I told you, you're arguing, I'm done. I'm like, I'm so done with that in my life and people in my life who think that they're going to argue with me about my opinion. You can't argue with me about my opinion or my feelings. Those are mine. I get to keep them. Have it.
Did this happen to you recently?
It did happen to me recently.
Can you share the details of it?
A family member.
Okay.
Yes, it was a family member. It was not political. It was about a parenting question. And my response was like, my kids are grown. Like, these aren't things I talk to them about. Well, what's your opinion on such and such? And I'm like, well, this is it. Well, that's just not even right. Well, shut the fuck up. Like, if you disagree, just say, I completely disagree with that, but don't come in under the guise of, what's your opinion on this? Just say, what do you think about this? I disagree. Okay, we're disagreeing.
Was this a passive aggressive or maybe just an aggressive critique on your parenting style? Was that what was wrapped up into this?
It was more passive aggressive. And I think that's what bothers me. Yeah. If it would have just been an aggressive assault on my parenting, I would have been like, yeah. I would have given it some thought, but since it was passive aggressive, even though maybe I'm wrong, which I don't think I am, I'm immediately going to defend it until my last breath.
Can you share with me and the listeners what you're allegedly wrong about?
Or am I going too wrong far? About monitoring my children's partying. Because maybe some of their pictures on social media show beer cans in their hands. It's like, okay.
But they all can legally drink, correct?
According to fake ID, yes, but no.
But I mean, you have a
25, 23, and 20.
Okay, so the suggestion is that you're not monitoring the partying enough.
Right. They don't live here. I mean, we've talked about alcoholism. We've talked about addiction, like ad nauseum. It is not something they're unaware of. But short of driving my car and camping outside their apartment, my hands are a little bit tied. But it's like, well, it just shouldn't be on social media. Okay, that doesn't mean it's going away.
Here's my advice, unsolicited advice. Here's my opinion.
Okay, well, let me see if I argue with it.
I would have this family member, I would tell your children to block this family member from seeing their social media. That's how I would fix it.
That's a great way.
Kids, here's the deal. If you want me to pay your cell phone bill while you're still in school, you need to block X family member because this person is a Gladys Kravitz, codependent, nosy, micromanager, and I don't want to hear it. You're in college, potentially drinking beer, doing the things you're supposed to be doing, and I really don't want to know about it. And I certainly don't want this nosy busybody knowing about it.
Certainly don't want Gladys in on it.
I would respond very aggressively to the passive aggressive nature of this family member. Okay, let me tell you what I've had it with.
Okay.
All right. It's a situation that I'd had it with. So I took my dogs to the dog park 2 nights ago. We walked there, and my dogs are super enthusiastic about going to the dog park because we go in the evenings, and they're starting to become little New York dogs, pumps. Like they can navigate through people because we are all fast walkers, Tubby, Cha-Cha, and myself. So we make our way to the dog park and we get in. And the dogs are running around, socializing. Sometimes they get a little codependent with me, and I remind them, like, this is your time to shine. Show that you're independent. Don't be a titty baby with your mama at the doggy park, right? And so we talk through it. We talk on our way there, and then we get them like, remember our talk. So there were these other two dogs in the dog park. And the dog's owners, one of the dog's owners was a male, the other dog owner was a female, and they were chit-chatting. And then their dogs were playing. And I'm kind of observing everything that's going on. And then all of a sudden, one of the dogs, and both dogs were in outfits. They had on like coats. A lot of New York dogs have on little coats, and they're stylish dogs. All right. So one of the dogs just completely mounts the other dog and is going to town. And I couldn't help but notice the dog sex at the dog park. And I'm just kind of waiting for the owner of the mounter to call the dog off. Instead, what I witnessed was rather alarming.
What?
It was coaching and play-by-play.
No.
Yes. So there's this little terrier, pumps, in like a raincoat, right? He has on like a little raincoat and a scarf. All right. This is the terrier predator who mounts, and I don't know, it could have been, I think it was a male, mounts another dog. And the woman was kind of sitting there, and I assumed the dog that was getting mounted was hers. But this man was sitting there, and he was like, yeah, buddy, that's looking pretty good. Do you still know how to do that? And I'm kind of looking, and then my dogs are looking. And again, I don't have an issue with
dog
sex. And then it turns out the other dog was male. And so then I certainly don't have any, because she was like, I guess he likes it. As it went on, I assumed that the one that was getting mounted was female, but it was a male. It was male on male. And of course I support gay dog sex
100%.
As long as it's consensual. What alarmed me about it was the menage a trois coaching factor to it in full display publicly. And I'm telling you, this went on for
That's
like
so
5
weird.
to 10 minutes. And so much so that they just never interrupted. And I know that nobody was getting penetration because of the aforementioned outfits, raincoats, scarves, and things that these dogs had on. But it was aggressive, gay dog sex, which I'm fine with. The participation by the one owner.
Right.
And he says it like this, Pumps. He's like, well, you still remember how to do that, don't you? You're just getting right up in there, aren't you? And it's just going on. And I'm looking at the woman, and I'm like, why are we all just going along with this? I mean, typically when dogs start doing that, you're kind of like, okay, knock it off.
Right.
Like, for example, sometimes my dog, Tubby, will mount Cha-Cha. And I immediately remind him, number one, she's a minor. And number two, she's your sister.
Right.
All right. Knock it off.
Can't happen.
Knock it off. And none of that happened here. And maybe I'm a dog sex prude. I don't want to be that. But what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with the dog sex. Dogs are going to be dogs. I have a huge problem with the owner doing the play-by-play. That's fucking weird as shit. How old is this person?
I would say he was probably 60.
That gives me the creeps too, kind of.
It was kind of creepy.
I mean, I was thinking like, 18, 19, 20. They kind of think it's funny.
No.
60? That's too old. That's very voyeuristic. I mean, he got into it sounds like.
He was really into it. He was narrating. He was coaching.
Ugh.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really
People
weird.
are
I mean,
gross.
it got to the point where I got my dogs and I put their leashes back on them, and I thought, we're just going to take a long walk home because I don't want to be exposed. And again, it's not the gay dog sex that I take issue with. I support it. I support gay animals. I'm an ally of gay animals. I just didn't appreciate the coaching and the narrating in a public space. And I think at the very minimum, if your dog wants to have gay sex, you should encourage your dog to do it in private. That's all I'm saying.
Sex is private. I mean, it just is. You just don't want to see any kind of narrated sex at a public
A lot of people
place.
do, Pumps. A lot of people do.
Well, yeah, they do. But for me personally, I don't want narrated sex in my public space.
Well, you're asexual. I know. But I think a lot of people like it. It was the dog component that was a little alarming.
Yeah, and it just sounds like he was like high-fiving it. Like, go baby.
He was cheering him on. He was really proud of him. he was really proud of him. All right, that's disturbing. All right, welcome to I've Had It. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Angie, as the aforementioned head beaver in charge.
Kylie.
Hi.
What do you think about the gay dog sex at the dog park?
Gay dog sex, great. Do your thing. The human is where it really gets disgusting to me. I mean, what does he do to other humans? He sees like a couple making out and he stops on the sidewalk.
Right.
Like, wow. You guys are getting good at that. It's fucking weird in any situation.
Yeah.
I don't like
the other owner, did the dog that he mounted, did she object in any way?
It seemed to me that she was experiencing a bit of paralysis, or that maybe they meet up all the time for this. It was so bizarre. Again, not the dogs mounting, because I've talked to you about the problems that I sometimes have with my family and this happening, and the discussions I have with my dogs about underage sex, public sex, and incest with Tubby and Cha-Cha. So I handle that internally. Obviously, if that happened at the dog park, I would swiftly move in so that all of my fellow patrons at the dog park would know that, I'm going to hold Tubby accountable for the incestuous aggressions to a minor, Cha-Cha. They were so lackadaisical about it that I'm kind of, and the dog is like, I mean, it's just going like a gyrator, right? In a raincoat with a scarf. Okay. The other dog is a terrier that kind of looks like it, but it has on like a sweater. And they're just going crazy. And I just kept waiting for someone to call off. And then it was just so normal to them and not disturbing to them that I started to think, am I the problem?
Right.
Am I a dog sex prude?
Right.
And so I just packed my dogs up and we left the dog park, because I just felt like they thought it was so normal and thought so little of it, even commenting and encouraging it, that I thought, I'm clearly the problem here. I'm the new redneck that moved from Oklahoma, and maybe my dogs are not as progressive as these dogs. Maybe I need to let Tubby just have his way with Cha-Cha. Maybe I need to evolve here. I didn't know what to do. That's how upside down the whole thing was.
This is dog exhibitionism.
It is.
Sure. You don't see that in Oklahoma.
I hadn't seen it. And I've been going to the dog park now. I've lived up here a month and a half. We go to the dog park all the time. And that was at first. Now, I've seen mounting, and then I see corrections from human owners. I see, like, all right, let's tone that down. Stop that. But here it was the opposite. It's really weird. Not to belabor it, but listeners, viewers, go in the comment section and tell me what you think about this. Am I the crazy person? Or are they the crazy people? Or is it just nobody's crazy and it just is what it is? I don't know.
And I'm like you said, I'm asexual, so I'm not the best judge.
Speaking of Pumps being asexual, I've got a 5-star review. And the Gaytheist fangirl writes, Jen is living her best liberal dream life while Pumps lounges in bed with her dogs by 6 p.m., embracing her newfound asexuality in Oklahoma. This shows therapy, comedy, and political rebellion. Kylie is the fearless leader of all lesbians and keeps this chaos on track. Thank you, Jen and Pumps, for saying out loud what we are all screaming into the void. You all normalized losing it, and it is appreciated.
I think the right wingers would agree with that. They have normalized losing it.
Right. Unhingedness.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a book review yesterday. This is random, about Life as a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches.
At which? Here it is.
There it is. And it seemed like a hate review the whole way down. I read the whole thing. It was like, they're normalizing misery, blah, blah, blah. At the bottom, it was like 5 stars. I loved it. So, okay, I've got a 1-star.
Okay.
It says, "Don't worry, everyone." And Rough Around the Edges writes, "These are just old spinsters who are so lonely. I'm sure they cry about it each and every day they wake up alone, living in their own created hell. Their hearts are empty."
Rough around the edges. That's what we do every morning. I wake up and I just start bawling, crying in solitude. You fucking moron. Being alone is fabulous.
It's the best.
And we're not alone that often. We have careers and other things, but I imagine Rough Around the Edges might be doing a little projection, considering that this person is probably sitting alone, finding our podcast reviews somewhere on the internet and filling that in to fill the void of their own loneliness. Don't sell out loneliness.
Yeah, loneliness is good. And Rough Around the Edges, I just want you to know, I share my bed with 2 French bulldogs and I share my pillow with one. So I do not wake up alone.
Okay, I've got a couple news stories for you. This one is, "People who talk to their dogs like they're humans have higher emotional intelligence." It says this behavior, often seen as playful or eccentric, may actually reflect an individual's advanced capacity for emotional connection. Researchers found that participants who frequently conversed with pets were more attuned to subtle social cues and demonstrated greater compassion in relationships.
I knew it. I just knew it. The evidence just keeps rolling in about our emotional intelligence and highly evolved brains. And this is just another one because I have conversations with my dogs all the time. I mean, we talk constantly. They're one of them sitting right here under me, and like they know, like before I started recording, like, okay, you're going to have to hold and stay. This is going to be like an hour, and then I tell them what we're going to do. And I'm just not one of these people that just assumes that dogs don't need to be spoken to. They need to know what's going on.
I completely agree. You have to
Which
tell them.
goes to, what about the guy in the park? Is he like super?
He might be super evolved.
That's
right. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm like in preschool emotional evolution and he's like a PhD.
Yeah.
Per that study, I think he would be more emotionally mature and evolved than I.
I agree. Okay. This one, Jen, is just to piss you off. A student earns a perfect score on an exam for his drawing of Jesus Christ. And the prompt was, write a short story about someone who sacrificed everything. They drew a very detailed photo of Jesus and said Jesus only, and it got a 100%.
That's so stupid. I mean, this is just, I know that there's probably people that are religious that hear me say that. They're like, oh my God, but seriously, like that was not the prompt. And it's just, I've just had it. I've had it with Jesus thumpers. I've just had it.
I was going to say, like, how much effort was put into that picture? I mean, the drawing itself was good, but I would flunk the person because it fails to meet intellectual standards. But I think the drawing is pretty impressive.
Right, but it's not an art class. So what do you teach?
Right. So you get a 0 out of 10.
But isn't this the perfect example of what's happening nationwide right now, that Moses Mike Johnson can just mention God or the Lord or Jesus, and then he gets excused for covering up pedophilia.
Right.
Doesn't Trump get to say, that, he reads 2 Corinthians? This is affirmative actions for Christians. If you just say you're a Christian, then any behavior you do not following the rules of that exam is going to be rewarded, even if you're a piece of shit that doesn't follow the rules. That's my problem with this. That's my problem with MAGA Christians, not some of our listeners that are, Christian light or whatever, but the people who think you give a person a complete pass and even 100% score because they Christian signal. And I just think that's bullshit.
It's the blasphemy thing. If the teacher would have given a 0 out of 10, then would the teacher have been attacked because, you are not allowing this person to answer the question, and it's blasphemy that you gave this a 0. Like, it's
The teacher, the kid was setting the teacher up, and
Right.
then the parents would have a stage 5 meltdown and be at some school board meeting.
Can you imagine?
The teacher's a Satanist, blah, 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 blah. When, it's just we are empowering Iron Age thinkers that want a hall pass for just saying, hey, I'm a Christian. And then they get a hall pass for doing horrible shit. Now, granted, the person who drew that wasn't horrible shit, but they deserve to get a 0 because they didn't follow the rules. And because you drew a picture of Jesus, you don't get a Jesus carve out for that and get 100%. You did not follow instructions, and you're trying to, frame the teacher so that then it can go viral in the MAGA world, because this is the shit they care about. And it's so dumb. And another thing, I want somebody in MAGA, if you're going to draw Jesus, draw him as the black man that he was. Stop with the whitewashed version of it. I mean, let's just start with that.
Jennifer, I'll just tell you this right now. That will never fucking happen with the evangelicals that I know. Jesus is as white can be in their mind. I distinctly remember going to somebody's house, and maybe I was like in junior high or high school, so I was older, and they had a picture of Jesus as a black man, and I was like, oh, that was the first time I ever entertained the thought, having been indoctrinated from jump, that maybe Jesus wasn't a white man, despite all the evidence that he was from.
So wait, you went to a friend's house?
Yeah.
And what grade were you in? High school?
Middle school, high school.
Okay. And they had a portrait of
Right.
black
One of those
Jesus.
pictures that you get of Jesus, all that.
And were these people white?
I can't remember. I'm going to say probably not. If they no. Okay, now I'm remembering who it was. They were European.
So white.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, in Oklahoma, European is, they came from like Poland, maybe.
So Caucasian.
Caucasian, right. But but they understood the geography. And that was the first time it ever even crossed my brain that there was a correlation between the geography and the race.
Middle Eastern. Did you say anything to your mother about this development? Did you view it as blasphemous or?
No, I remember thinking, oh yeah, there's no way Jesus can be white. Like from just basic geography. No, did I run home to my mother? Probably not. I probably would remember if I did, because she would have said, oh my gosh, Jesus is white. And I don't remember that conversation, so I'm assuming I didn't.
Okay, Kylie.
Okay, we've got another. This one I really liked. In 2022, 90% of complaints about Dublin Airport came from one person who made over 23,000 complaints in a single year. And it says Dublin Airport's operator reported 26,196 aircraft noise complaints in 2022. And one resident submitted 23,431 of them, averaging 64 a day.
That is such a laser focused commitment to grievances. I mean, that is like, if we were to have the I've had it award of the year, I would give it to that person and have them come on the podcast and interview them and just say, you had it so much that you visited this grievance 64 times a day and wrote about it. This is somebody who's just really dedicated to their grievance, a singular grievance.
They're so mad about it. When you're reading that, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm like, it flashes in my mind, the person that wrote me the anonymous letter, but I know it was my across the street neighbor, about my laundry soap, how grateful I am that I only got one anonymous letter and not 64 a day. That is laser focused. You're right.
I will never forgive you for throwing away that anonymous letter.
That really was failure. On my part.
So for new listeners, what happened is Pumps received an anonymous letter, and it was sent to her house and to her husband's office, the exact same letter.
Uh-huh.
Because Pumps uses this laundry soap that has a tinge of patchouli in it. And patchouli is one of these smells that it's like cilantro. People either love it or hate it. And so patchouli, some people like it, and then some people just have this visceral, horrific reaction to it. And if you're around Pumps or her children or her dogs, they all smell like patchouli. Like Roman, my youngest son, will say, like, were you with Pumps today? Because I can smell the patchouli. Like the scent is so strong that if I'm around her a lot, then I smell like patchouli by proxy. And then my children pick up on the scent because they're friends with her children. It's a pretty big smell is what I'm saying. Her house smells like it. Everything smells like it. So this neighbor had it with Luke, her youngest son, going over and smelling like patchouli. And she banned him from coming in the house. And then she wrote this really mean letter about the laundry soap and that everybody in the neighborhood was talking about it and blah, blah, blah. So of course, Pumps calls me over. I immediately arrived to do a dramatic reading of the letter. We just howled with laughter because she knew exactly who it was, because the son had come home and said, you know, Jimmy's mom won't let me come in their house anymore because she says I stink.
Right. And her kid had come to my door and I said, yeah, they're in the backyard. Come on through. And he goes, no, my mom won't let me come in your house because of the smell. And to be fair, she went on and on in the letter about the medical terminology for nose blind. And I'll give her this. I completely have it. I'm completely nose blind to that smell. So she did score that one.
It's hilarious. All right, listen up, listener. We have a guest today. He is a former Illinois congressman and founder of Country First. And I think he has a documentary coming out called The Last Republican, which could you imagine being the very last one? So let's ask him about that. Let's welcome to I've Had It, Adam Kinzinger. This episode of I've Had It is brought to you by Booking.com. Pumps, I've got to say, if you're looking to grow your vacation rental business, this is the place to be. Booking.com is one of the most downloaded travel apps in the entire world, and for good reason. Since 2010, they've helped over 1.8 billion vacation rental guests find places to stay. That's billion with a B. But here's the thing. Most vacation rentals don't even realize they can list their properties on Booking.com. And if you're not on the platform, your rental is basically invisible to millions of Booking.com travelers worldwide.
And nearly half of the hosts get their first booking within a week.
So listener, if your vacation rental isn't listed on Booking.com, it could be invisible to millions of travelers searching the platform. Don't miss out on consistent bookings and global reach. Head over to Booking.com and start your listing today. Get seen. Get booked on Booking.com. All right, Pumps, I usually get so overwhelmed with Christmas shopping because I like to fancy myself a good gift giver. I don't just want to get somebody a robe or a pair of socks. So I have discovered Uncommon Goods, and they have something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers, history buffs, diehard football fans to foodies, mixologists, and avid gardeners. You'll find thousands of new gift ideas that you won't find anywhere else.
What I like about Uncommon Goods is when you buy from Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out this holiday season.
Listener, don't wait. Cross those names off your list before the rush. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/hadit. That's uncommongoods.com/hadit for 15% off. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. Hey, ladies, did you know that one of the most common complaints from women about their sexual health is a frustratingly low libido? Our sex drives can decline, but it's also treatable. Addie or flibanserin is FDA approved and has been clinically proven to increase sexual desire in certain premenopausal women who are bothered by a low libido. So, if you feel like you've lost your desire and you want to get it back, stop falling for the snake oils and ask your doctor today about Addyi. Go to Addyi.com. That's ADDYI.com. Use coupon code HADIT for $10 telemed appointments at Addyi.com. Ask your doctor about Addyi today. That's ADDYI.com. Use coupon code HADIT for $10 telemed appointment at Addyi.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Hi, very well. How are you?
Pretty good. By the way, I know you guys have Oklahoma roots. I lived there for a year and a half. I lived in Enid and Altus.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Enid. I've been to Enid. It's a rough place.
Yeah, and Altus, it's like when I had nothing to do, we would go cruise around the Walmart. Like literally that was it. So, but I have affection for it. It was great. Air Force towns,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Adam Kinzinger, I remember you kind of came to my awareness during the January 6th hearings. And will you just share with us, like, once you broke from the cult, what happened to you? Like, what was, not you personally, but like the reaction within the party to you is the first part of the question. The second part of the question, how many colleagues would say, I totally agree with you, but I'm just not going to go that far?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, look, in 2016, I didn't vote for Trump. And so I was always kind of on the outs of the Republican base. And but, you do your best to try to manage through that. And then when, frankly, the night of the election in 2020, when Trump came out and said, frankly, the election is being stolen, like that to me was a huge breaking line, because for democracy to survive, the only thing that you need, I mean, you don't have to agree on anything except that you can vote and your vote counts. That's it, right? And then everything else kind of runs. And then, of course, January 6th was the worst day, frankly, that I've been through, and I've been to war. So the reaction immediately was, look, for about 4 weeks after January 6th, people forget this, but Donald Trump was kind of persona non grata. Nobody talked about him. Nobody even showed up when he left Andrews Air Force Base. That's the crazy thing when you think about it. And so it was like this silence, and everybody's trying to figure out, what do we do? What's next? And then 4 weeks later, Kevin McCarthy goes to Mar-a-Lago. And by the way, Kevin McCarthy owns 100% the resurrection of Donald Trump. And with that trip to Mar-a-Lago, that made the difference. And so the first 4 weeks, my colleagues were kind of like, hey, yeah, maybe we need to turn against this. I don't know. Somebody else has to lead it, but I'm willing to turn. And then the second Kevin went to Mar-a-Lago, everybody chose sides. And frankly, 90% of the Republican Party chose the side of Donald Trump because they knew he was coming back. And so the cost then at that point is like, look, we unfortunately in the last 20 years of society, we start to get our identity from our politics, which is actually a stupid place to get identity from, but we all do it. And so now imagine being kicked out of that tribe, kind of losing that identity, in many cases losing your friends, because a lot of my friends were, Republicans. And it takes a real toll. But it also helped me to kind of double down on this is the right thing to do. And then the question about how many of my colleagues believe, look, I think around the January 6th timeframe, probably 99% of the Republicans in the House and in the Senate knew what January 6th was, knew that Donald Trump launched it. And but over the last 5 years, a lot of them have been replaced. You have new people that have come along that have been believers in the first place. And then humans are really uniquely capable of convincing ourselves of anything. And I think in order to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, a lot of these men and women have convinced themselves that the January 6th was not what it was. And so I think now probably 50 to 70% probably of Republicans believe it was some deep state conspiracy or whatever. And it's sad. It's sad. I think history will reflect it correctly, but we're in a moment where, I don't know, brains are a little unhinged.
Do you think that the Republican Party that you were in when you were first in Congress, does that still exist, or is it now the MAGA Party?
No, it's gone. And, the name of the film is The Last Republican. I think I didn't name it, obviously. I'm just the subject, but I think it's an apt name because the party that I joined, I became a Republican because I believe in America's role in the world, right? Strong national defense. That party is gone. I mean, if you even look at, okay, let's say initially the Republican Party claimed to be for smaller government. There's nothing what they're doing now is actually encroaching major governments. I mean, look at ICE on the streets, look at all this stuff. They are, internationally, we back basically Vladimir Putin and not our friends in Ukraine. So that party that I knew is gone. And I think what happened is kind of slowly from with the ability of being out and able to kind of look back and see things historically now, it started a little bit in 1994. You started to get this kind of crazy element of the party. Obviously accelerated a little bit in 2010 with the Tea Party, but it really kind of a fire was lit with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump basically is uniquely shameless, and he allowed people to be uniquely shameless. And the party, at that point, it's kind of like a boat that's like shifting in the waters, and then it breaks free from its moorings. And that's where the GOP is now.
All right, let's peel off of politics for a moment to address your petty grievances, everyday grievances. And so what have you had it with, Mr. Kinzinger?
The very first thing is, okay, let's look, since we'll have to transition politically here, is Marjorie Taylor Greene has not found Jesus, okay? And I've had it with people that are sitting around saying that Marjorie Taylor, wow, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. What's going on? She has not found Jesus. She's a con artist. She always has been. She is playing everybody. And I don't know if she's going to end up saying like, hey, this was one big troll, ha, 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 or if she's like, really thinks she's going to be president, but I've had it with that. That's one thing.
I've been talking about this for a long time now, that she is a lot savvier than I thought. And you have not always lived in the Beltway or some blue city. You mentioned you had lived in Oklahoma. And the fact that certain things that she's messaging right now, when you're on your algorithm looking at all sorts of things, and then all of a sudden Tucker Carlson pops up, or Candace Owen pops up, or Marjorie Taylor Greene pops up, and it's kind of out of sorts in your algorithm. But you hear somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene say, we have given Benjamin Netanyahu a blank check. That is not America first. They have health care. We don't. And they get higher education and we don't. And then you flip and then you see some cat doing a trick in your next slide. That messaging right there will hit so fucking hard and fly over America. It is really, really smart messaging. What pisses me off about this is something that Hakeem Jeffries should make the epicenter of his party right now. The blank check to Benjamin Netanyahu. The really ties in, if they really want to reach out, they're always trying to reach out to moderate voters, but the capitulation of Donald Trump to Russia, piling on that we just found out that Epstein was advising Russia on how to compromise Donald Trump. And the fact that Hakeem can't say this because he takes AIPAC money, it just becomes more and more and more obvious. I have a question for you because you were in the Death Star being Congress. Matt Gaetz, who's a total fucking nut, grifter, all of that. He said, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he said when he got into Congress that it's like, okay, you have to go on your big trip to Israel. And so he goes to Israel and he had an AIPAC like person, a monitor. And then one time he just goes into his hotel room and the person was in there and he was like, this is weird. So I don't know if any of this is true or not, but I do see a link between the Democrats that take AIPAC money being controlled opposition, considering the AIPAC gave Donald Trump as much money as Elon Musk did to get him elected. And so it seems like that's a real conflict of interest. Like if Hakeem was taking donations from Elon, that would be a real problem. But AIPAC, not a problem. So tell us about this AIPAC connection with both Democrats and Republicans, because it is something that's really, really, really disseminating through the base right now in a very unfavorable way.
Yeah. So of everything Matt says, it's typical with him, which is there's 30% truth to it. So the truth is, yes, when you get elected, they do have big trips through. It's technically AIPAC. It's a different foundation because it's different money. And they invite, you don't have to go, but they invite freshmen to come and you kind of get the tour of Israel. And so that is true. And then when you don't get a monitor from AIPAC, you actually just get somebody that's kind of involved with AIPAC that is kind of like your touchstone. So they'll try to reach out and call you and stuff like that. Now, the difference too, now in terms of somebody in his hotel room, that's creepy. I have no clue. I've never had anybody in my hotel room like that. I would have called the police. But in terms of the money side of it, so there may be aspects like with, I don't know, what you've seen with Donald Trump or leadership where AIPAC or people related to AIPAC give a ton of cash, and that would have to be through a super PAC because there are limits or whatever. When you look at other members of Congress, what AIPAC kind of does is basically says, we're going to give each member of Congress that's supportive of Israel, whatever it is, $20,000 or $30,000 per election cycle. And they actually kind of go around to different donors to make that amount work. I've never seen any like standard kind of rank and file member of Congress get any more than like $25,000 to $30,000. Now, there are some tight races where I think AIPAC comes in with an outside group and spends money. I've never had that. So I don't think that, like, when people say, oh, somebody gets a check from AIPAC, therefore they're doing everything Israel wants, I don't necessarily buy that because I had to raise millions of dollars every cycle. And that had and just me personally, I've never made a decision based on any kind of fundraising. But I do think it's legit. I do think there is legitimate concern to say, what is the role of lobbying, particularly of, even though technically these are Americans that are doing the lobbying, what is the lobbying on behalf of a foreign government? What is the role of that in Congress? And should there be a role? And I think when you look at, like, for instance, the Gaza situation, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself. But this has been 2 years of basically bombing inside of Gaza without a strategic end game. I mean, what honestly Israel should have done was moved into Gaza and run a counterinsurgency versus what they did a counterterrorism, where you end up just killing a bunch of people and creating a bunch of enemies. So I think those are legitimate questions. But I don't think, look, I personally am not one of these that believe there's some grand conspiracy through AIPAC, but I do think people have a affection to Israel that they're unwilling to call out Israel. That is wrong. As purveyors of foreign policy, we have to be willing to call balls and strikes.
Question. One of your I've had it's that was not politically related is one of my had it's too, and it's about selfies. So will you share that? Because I want to pile on with you.
So listen, the thing that annoys me is a selfie, okay? I get, and by the way, people can go through my history and I probably have selfies out there, okay? So I'm not sinless, okay? But if you take a picture of yourself and there's no other reason to take that picture, I'm over it. I get it. 5 years ago, fine. But now, make sure there's another person in the picture with you, or I might give credit if it's like a building that's cool in the background or something, but selfies, done. No more. I'm over it.
I completely agree.
I've noticed that people that take selfies, I recently moved to New York, and they're just like in the middle of the sidewalk taking the selfie. They feel no shame and no embarrassment. Yeah. Almost like it's like Moses Mike Grinder Johnson standing up there saying, this is the most transparent president in history. He's incapable of feeling shame. Like, they don't feel it. They do not feel it. And the same with the selfie taker. I mean, there's a link. It's like been the dismantling of shame. And we need to bring that shame back. We need to bring back some components of cancel culture. Not, it went too far, but I want some of it back because we need to check people. Okay. I want to talk to you about your being the last Republican, and I want you to share about, because we grew up in a state where people were indoctrinated to be Republicans. Yeah. It's a part of the culture. Reagan, Pumps and I grew up in the 80s. It was Reagan and this trickle down economics and fiscal conservatism. And I have come to believe that Ronald Reagan, and things weren't so polarized back then. And this is through, retrospection, that his critiques of the poor, demeaning people on food stamps, this kind of compassionate conservatism where it's like, we love Jesus, but also get off your lazy ass. And the tax breaks and the lie that has been perpetrated for decades by Republicans of trickle-down economics. It has not worked. And you can look, I mean, this is just, it's proven because the wealth disparity is so much now that working class people cannot afford anything. And in 2016, I was a good MSNBC Democrat. I voted for Hillary. Okay. I regret that vote now because I see that this governing incrementally and favoring corporations is really not an admirable or the right thing to do. That Bernie Sanders' message has aged much better, and it would create a much better society for all of us. So where are you personally? Because I see somebody's political views need to evolve. They can't be rigid and fixed. You have to evolve politically, and I've evolved politically. And so I'm curious your evolution from, I imagine what was probably a Reagan conservative, national security, fiscal conservatism, trickle down, conservative Supreme Court, yak, blah, blah. Where are you personally now? Politically?
It's a great question because I have evolved, and I wouldn't say it's an evolving because I've sat back and I've changed my mind on things. It's because I actually think both theories are important at different times. So if you look at like when Reagan came along, I mean, tax rates were really high. There was a stagnant economy. When he cut taxes and injected capital, the economy picked up. That was a good thing. But the problem is, when you have prolonged economic growth like that for that reason, then you get income disparity that results. And so then you have to find the right time to say, okay, that policy is put on ice for a little bit, and now we need to close this income gap because we're creating a lot of anger out there. The fact is we're creating a permanent billionaire and now trillionaire class with Elon Musk. And so I personally think that, and I don't know if it's every 5 years, every 10 years, if it's just like you monitor it, but I think both kind of theories of the economy have important roles at important times. It's why I've always believed that, like, frankly, a country needs a left movement and a right movement. It's like a tug and pull that I think works out in the long run. Now I think we're in a moment where we're going to have to fix that income disparity. I think you have to do things with taxes to prevent, billionaire families from passing on billionaire wealth and creating a permanent different income class. That probably includes higher taxes on inheritance, higher taxes, obviously, on income, those kinds of things. And we have got, unfortunately, it's not going to happen in the next 3 years, but the next administration has got to get in and break up monopolies that are being built today.
Yes.
I mean, right now you have thankfully for independent media, if not for this, there would be no other way. But if you look at the media conglomeration, it's all being consolidated under one man now. Elon Musk controls X. That one man controlling the media might end up buying TikTok, weirdly for about a tenth of its value, which is interesting. But you look at this billionaire class, and I think that's when it's time to look and say, okay, there is a place for, we'll call it Bernie Sanders economics, because this has gotten out of control. Like, you can't have Reaganism permanently, and you can't have like Sandersism permanently, if that makes sense.
Don't you think, though, that, and I'm not an economist, so I'm earnestly asking this, that if you look at the Scandinavian model, which is the inspiration for Bernie Sanders, that these societies value collectivism a lot more. In America, we value individualism. My tax break, my God, my country, my flag. And we really have normalized, and I believe it started with Reagan, demeaning fellow citizens, demeaning poor people. And he did it in a far classier, more polite way. But Trumpism just didn't happen all of a sudden. And listen, I browbeat the Democrats just as much as I do the Republicans. But don't you think that just unregulated capitalism at any time puts the chum in the water? And then we create these monsters. And we need to think more about collectivism. I have these friends that are Parisian, and now they live in the United States. But when they talk about France, and they talk about that a woman gets a year off after she has a baby, and that the father has paternity leave, and they talk about their healthcare system. And, the French are always on strike about laborers. It's something they're super passionate about. They really, like, the French government tried to raise the retirement age, and they went bananas. I was there when they did. They went fucking bananas. They were in the streets going bananas, fighting collectively against this. And I feel like culturally, we have just worshipped the rich guy. I mean, look at Elon Musk. That motherfucker did a Sig Heil and is strung out on drugs, is a deadbeat dad, whistle blew properly about Trump being, cankles deep in the Epstein files, as we're all seeing right now. And then he gets rewarded for it. The same with Trump. He gets rewarded for this. So we've created culturally, by worshiping capitalism to a fault. And listen, I love capitalism. I like to shop. I'm really shallow when it comes to a lot of that stuff. I really am. It's a character defect. But I've learned that it's not sustainable for everybody, that we have to come up with a system. I hear what you're saying about shifting back and forth, but I think when these millionaires get that chum in the water, they can't stop.
Agreed.
It's like crack cocaine. So we have to combine some FDR, some Bernie Sanders, stability to our country, because the collateral damage is democracy. And that's just too precious of a thing to gamble.
Yeah, I agree. And it used to be that Republicans would at least give lip service to, they don't believe in unregulated capitalism either. I think that's changed, and now they do, right? Well, no, actually, it's interesting because, yes, in a way they do, but also Donald Trump is taking 10% of every company now, which is actually command economy, controlling. I mean, that's Chinese. That's China capitalism, which is interesting. It's this weird thing. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think, look, I always have thought the role of government is to create a free and fair environment for competition, right? Yeah. So it's to say, okay, here's a capitalistic thing. It needs to be free, but we also want to ensure that it's fair, which is why when I get into the fact that, Elon Musk is worth $1 trillion, is that fair? Not really, because now he and his kids for infinity will have the ability to outcompete Americans, which is never what the founders intended. And they never intended, by the way, they always, I'm sure they knew that a Donald Trump would come along. They basically wrote the Constitution to him. They never assumed a Congress would willingly give up its own power. That's kind of the surprise. But on top of that, they always they knew that rich people would probably have a little more political influence, but I don't think they ever envisioned this, which is why I think things like campaign finance reform have to happen. Unfortunately, that takes constitutional amendment at this rate to do it. But yeah, I mean, I agree that when you talk about individualism and collectivism, obviously I bristle a little bit at the term collectivism. I like community thinking, which is we are all in this thing together. I think we need to have a little more pride in that, a little more patriotism in that. And I think individualism in and of its heart is good, but when it turns into selfishness, it's not. And you see that right now. You see, here's the thing I can't understand, and this is what drives me nuts, and I've talked about this as much as I can. It's one thing to say we need to have border enforcement, and unfortunately, with a heavy heart, we need to have deportations. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to put out X videos where you're dragging chains and you're calling it ASMR, and you're watching, young people and parents and moms be ripped from their kids in the line to pick them up from school, and these giggling fucking masses of MAGA about it because they're being cruel. And the president of the United States, who's the most powerful man in the world, who against all odds won re-election, is sitting in his office obsessed with retribution, obsessed with punching down, obsessed with being a victim. That is just the weakest beta maleist version of America I've ever seen. And in their mind, they think they're tough and strong. And that's why I think strength actually is the ability to put other people ahead of yourself, to punch up, not down, or even punch across, and to fight for injustice. To fight injustice, not for it. I think that's real strength. And I think this party, and I think history is going to judge. I honestly think in 10 years, there's not a soul that will ever admit they supported Donald Trump. And I think you can use the term Donald Trump and Benedict Arnold interchangeably.
Listener, the hot book of the summer. Oops, I have it the wrong way. Take two. Listener, the hot book of the summer is now the cool book of the fall. It is. In Trump's America, I can tell you with absolute certainty, the best book that has ever been written. And believe me, a lot of people are talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. It took us one day to write it. Because we're on day one.
Because we took a cognitive test and it was book, write, done.
All right. Anyway, please buy our book. It's a great way to support us. It is a really fun read for the fall. Curl up with your pumpkin spice lattes and just enjoy living the American dream in dipshit Trump's America. This ad is brought to you by Vive Healthcare, the makers of Apertude, Cabotegravir.
You never skip your SPF, and you carry hand sanitizer like an accessory, but what are you doing for HIV prevention? One way to help protect yourself from HIV is Apertude, a prescription medicine used to reduce the risk of getting HIV in adults and adolescents weighing at least 77 pounds.
You must be HIV negative to receive Apertude and get tested before each injection. If you think you were exposed to HIV or have flu-like symptoms, tell your doctor right away. More HIV testing may be needed. Apertude does not prevent other sexually transmitted infections. Practice safer sex to reduce your risk. Get Apertude as scheduled. Missing doses increases your HIV risk. Don't take Apertude if allergic to it or taking certain medicines that may interact. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions, liver problems, and mental health. Serious side effects include allergic reactions or rash, liver problems, and depression. If these occur, get medical help right away. The most common side effect is injection site reaction. Bring your A game and talk to your doctor. Learn more at apertude.com or call 1-888-240-0340. All right, listener, when Pumps and I started this podcast, you just cannot even imagine how incompetent we are about setting up like filming schedule, logos, social media. How do we get a store? How do we have merch? Well, if you find yourself in a similar state of incompetence, I can firmly recommend Shopify. It simplifies everything and makes starting your own business, or if you already have your own business, it helps you organize it in such a legitimate manner.
And Shopify helps you get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling.
Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. So listener, turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/hadit. Go to shopify.com/hadit. Shopify.com/hadit. Are you on his retribution list? Does he ever?
Yeah. You gotta be.
I would figure.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Yeah, but here's my thing. So it's weird. There's an interesting thing with Donald Trump, which is he's always kind of been, in a way, obsessed with me because I've never fully been in with him. And I use the example of when you're a douchebag kind of like high school kid and you ask a girl out on a dance and she says no, you kind of want to go out with her more, right?
Yeah.
Or if she says yes, you're like, oh, I don't really like her now, right? Because you're a little stupid high school kid. He's that way. So if you're not really in, he's obsessed with you. If you're all in, he'll throw you under the bus. But regardless, yeah, I'm on the retribution list, and here's my view on it, because there's literally nothing they can come after me for unless they want to come after me for doing my job. And this is legit, and if they're listening, I'm saying it to you all again, bring it. Bring it. I will crush you in court. And by the way, if you come after me, it'll make me 3 times more effective against you. Bring it. Come bring fake charges against me and see how that ends up for you. That's what I say.
I do think what's so horrible right now is you have, I think that Kash Patel's FBI and the DOJ, Pam Bondi, and the pageant girl that's charging Comey, the only American lawyer ever that would actually take this case forward was her. And I do think they will cook the books. I do think this is a president who called Georgia and said, I need you to find me 11,000 votes. And after Charlie Kirk was murdered, I questioned the veracity of the text messages. And people were like, oh no, and I'm like, we're still playing 2 separate games here. If you think Donald Trump isn't surrounded by pick-me loyalists that would cook the books for him, you haven't been paying attention. And so as much as I love your, bring it, let's fight back, I am really worried that the people in the Justice Department that were good, that were nonpartisan, that were civil servants, that weren't looking to be millionaires and billionaires, that believed in the rule of law are leaving. I think federal judges, one just wrote an article in The Atlantic that was a Reagan appointee, and I'm sure you've read it. It's just very, very, very disturbing, a conservative who's calling out this administration. So I also am fearful for innocent, brave Americans like you that this administration will not totally make shit up and charge you for bogus stuff, because that's the type of shit that these people do. And here's one final thing I want to get your opinion on before we play our world famous game, Had It or Hit It. Okay. So you come from the fiscal conservative background, and I know I'm so attuned to this culture growing up in Oklahoma City, because my hip friends would say, well, I'm fiscally conservative, but socially liberal, so that they could have gay friends and whatever. So for the fiscal conservatives, when you erode the judiciary, you erode the economy, because you have no court that you can take your contract in to enforce it. And so what is your message to your former fiscal conservative friends and country club Republicans, which are a huge voting bloc that vote solely for their tax breaks? That's it. I know hundreds of people like this, and they're not just in red states, they're all over the place. What is your message about banking on fiscal conservative because, quote, Trump's good with the economy and then his actions with the court?
Well, I mean, first off, let's just be clear. There's nothing fiscally conservative about Trump. I mean, honestly, if you look back at Joe Biden and Obama, they were more fiscally conservative than Donald Trump. I mean, I don't remember Joe Biden or Obama bailing out Argentina for $40 billion.
Oh, shit.
And I don't remember him tariffing and taxing the American people as intensely as Trump is. And I don't remember a $300 million ballroom being built under either of those. So I think we have to dispel from the fact, and this is why I think I'm so aggressive about the fact that the GOP is the Republican in name only now. And if they have every right to change what they are, that's fine. Then I'm the last of the old, Republicans. That's fine. They can be whatever they want to be, but they're not fiscally conservative. So I think that's first off. Secondly, just as a message to them, the thing I would say is the roots of republicanism, if you think back to like Eisenhower and Lincoln and arguably Reagan or whoever, any Republican, the idea is we want a small government, but it's got to be there to protect people. Being able to litigate, for instance, any grievance in the court system, I think it's not really a conservative or Republican value. It's just an American value, because politics was created to prevent violence, and same with the court system, right? It's the way you get justice. It's biblical. It's everything. And so that would be my argument, is we have to preserve that, the rule of law. But also, if you call yourself a fiscal conservative and you're going to vote for Trump because of that, you're just lying to yourself, because there is nothing conservative about him. And by the way, Democrats hate me when I say this, so I'm going to say it anyway. The Democrats are the conservative party now. They're also the progressive party, but they are the conservative party.
I have been saying this for 2 months now. Yep. Watching Chuckles and Hakeem, I feel like I am watching conservatives that have ground to a screeching halt, that are trying to preserve the status quo. And it goes back to what you and I share politically, the ability to evolve. That we don't have fixed, rigid political views. I do about certain things, about universal human rights. I'm very fixed on that. But about policies and messaging and strategy and what worked in the past, we have to be very open-minded about it. And the Democratic establishment feels like a conservative party that wants to govern incrementally like a bunch of puss boys. And I have fucking had it. Adam, I'm about to lose my mind with it. I scream it from the rooftops all the time.
I understand.
Now it's time for Had It or Hit It. Oh my God. Welcome to Had It or Hit It. I would hit it. Had it. I hit it every day, sometimes twice a day. The first one, this is hilarious. Kylie made this list. Trump's ballroom, AKA Little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson.
I've had it. That's an easy one. I've had it.
Okay. Had it or hit it, the Epstein emails?
Hit it.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Yeah.
I like them. Yeah. I mean, I don't like them, but I like them. You know what I mean? This is going to take him. I mean, it's not going to take him down. I've said this 100 times. This is doing real damage to him, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Do you think the evangelical base of the MAGA movement. I don't think they care about this. Pumps and I have the theory. There's been so much sexual corruption in a lot of these mega churches.
Yeah.
They're kind of primed for it. The preacher's always playing grab ass with somebody and, doing poppers at a gay bar and shit like this.
Here's my thought is, by the way, there is a kind of small but rising version of evangelicalism that's voting Democratic and hates Trump. It's kind of on the ascendance. But, yes, it's not the vast majority. I think what it comes down to is for 30 years, they have programmed these people to believe that the enemy is the left, right? Anybody with literally blue hair or transgender or believes in higher taxation, that is the enemy. For 30 years, they've been programmed to believe that. And Donald Trump is the general that is fighting the person they hate. So they always use, and you guys, you understand this because you probably heard people say it, the King David approach, right? Oh, he was flawed too, but God used him. Yeah, but King David repented in the Bible. This guy is not repentant at all. And so, yeah, and the other thing is to finally turn on Trump and be like, yeah, he's a child sex predator. You have to admit your role in defending him.
That's right.
For 10 years. And nobody's willing to do that. Nobody will.
That's a really
rewriting history.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, I will say, though, there are very small groups of MAGA that are coming to the light. I interview a lot of these people. And my message to your audience is when you see somebody say, I've had it with MAGA, I give up. Don't put a comment under there like, I told you, you should have known, F you. Instead, let's do what Donald Trump does really well, which is welcome people into the fold. As long as they know what they did was wrong, Donald Trump will forgive everybody. That's his superpower. We have to grow to 51% or more if we want to beat these people.
I agree with you. I mean, as much as I'm mad about triple Trumpers, I acknowledge from my life in Oklahoma City that indoctrination plays a huge part of this, and the paralleling of spiritual warfare that the evangelical base has been accustomed to and indoctrinated to their whole entire life with Democrats are demons, Republicans are angels, and people that live on the coast and the Beltway, they don't understand how real this is to a lot of evangelical Christians, particularly white Christians in the country, and that simple messaging like that, how effective it's been. And once they start to deconstruct and unravel, I know this because my co-host was one of these people.
Right.
You have to be there to help them in the same way that you would be if somebody was getting sober from drinking.
Yep.
You have to support them. And this is a cult, and the deprogramming doesn't mean we're not still pissed. It doesn't mean we didn't think they were dumbasses or deplorable, because they were. Those actions were those things. But at the same time, if we're the party of empathy, compassion, human rights, progress, advancement, then we have to be able to say, I get it. I know that sucked. I get it. Latino for Trump. I'm sorry you didn't read the large signs at the RNC that said mass deportations now.
Shit.
I get it, but we're gonna take you in because I don't want you to be separated from your child.
And if
I want you to have health care.
Yeah, correct. And if we want MAGA to burn out, it's ultimately going to burn out by people coming to the light and turning, not because people die out. They're going to turn and realize this was wrong. So we need to encourage
And I think it's starting a little bit.
I do too.
Okay. All right. Had it or hit it, establishment Democrats.
Oh, I've had it.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, you need energy. I'm an institutionalist. I want to preserve a lot of institutions. I think democracy is important, but bring the energy that I don't think they have. I think they're just too comfortable being in office right now.
Okay. Had it or hit it, plane crash enthusiasts.
Oh my gosh. Had it. Had it. Listen, I'm a pilot. Listen, I'm a pilot. And, I flew 22 years for the Air Force. I have a plane. I still fly. I watch people every time there's a plane crash give me their reasons for it, and they are always incorrect. Always. Or you have somebody that saw somebody that knows what they're talking about say a word, and so they say the word like they came up with it. In the UPS crash, that's very tragic. Obviously, we saw pretty quick that an engine fell off, and then the number 3 engine, the one on the right, had compressor stall. I saw people that knew nothing about flying talking about the compressor stall in the number 3 engine only because they just saw somebody say compressor stall in the number 3 engine. I'm done with airplane crash enthusiasts. Tired of it.
So what's the Tom Hanks movie where he gets what's the name
Lost.
of that?
No, is it
Greyhound.
Oh, Castaway. Castaway.
Castaway.
Oh,
So are you a Castaway fan?
Yeah, actually, I did like Castaway.
It's
That was pretty good. Yeah.
It is pretty good considering it's just Tom Hanks and Wilson, the ball. I thought it was pretty good. Okay.
But if he would have sat around wallowing about the crash and making theories about it, I probably wouldn't like the movie.
Okay. All right. Had it or hit it, JD Vance 2028.
I'm mixed on this. I kind of want to say hit it because it would be fun to watch him go down in flames.
Yeah.
I think JD Vance is totally unable. I don't think anybody's able to recreate Donald Trump, but I also am a little scared that maybe he'd run and win. But I'm still going to go with hit it. Do it. Run, JD. Let's watch.
I think he would crash out the same way that Ron Kittenhill DeSantis did.
Yeah, totally.
I think he would crash out the exact same way that they think they're the future, they're the heir apparent, and they go and the Riz. We just played a video earlier on our other podcast of him sitting down with RFK Jr. And it's painful. I almost would prefer watching DeSantis speak.
Yeah.
And that's really splitting hairs. That's how low the bar is. I mean, he just has no
He's just
Riz at
weird.
all. He's weird.
He's weird. It's like
dominate
Stephen
adult
Miller's
people.
wife that threw the Jewish card out there immediately, and they were she was arguing with somebody, and they're
Yes.
like, "Yeah, you're a liar." Oh, that's an anti-Jewish trope. Like, wait, what? That's weird. JD Vance, same way. They're all victims too. I'm just tired of victims. Oh God.
And the connection, Pumps and I are really interested in the connection with J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel is such a fascinating case study because on the one hand, he is, this billionaire, became, naturalized citizen, wasn't born in America, which is fine. We welcome it. We're a nation of immigrants. But, he's an out of the closet homosexual, which good for him. I support that. He has children. I support gay people having children. It's a free country. But also his side hustle is he gives lectures on the Antichrist.
I know. And by the way, he's physically morphing into the Antichrist too.
He looks like a reptile.
Dramatically changed.
And then he the whole thing with JD Vance, he's the one who started whistleblowing about Trump. He's Hitler, he's all of these bad things. And the devolution of JD Vance as a human being that used to understand food stamps, understood addiction. He can't even fucking defend his wife and mixed race kids.
Dude.
And he will defend this pedophile protector and more than likely probably pedophile, in my opinion, Donald Trump. It's just fucking crazy in real time to watch the moral rot of these people in a very short period of time.
My wife is Salvadorian, by the way. If I didn't defend her, she would cut my head off. I don't understand that. If somebody goes after your wife, your job as a husband, your basic job is to actually murder anybody that goes after your wife. So I don't understand it. I just don't get it.
Ted Cruz started it.
Go ahead, Pumps.
I was just going to say, Ted Cruz started making it okay to let people,
attack your
rail
wife
against your spouse, whether it's husband or wife.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this:
so
having a Salvadorian wife, and you see the anti-immigration bigotry, very dangerous bigotry. Do you feel more outraged by that? I have a girl who works for my interior design project. She is Mexican American. And I just see what she's going through right now and I believe all human rights are connected. Anti-Semitism is no more important or deserves no more special treatment than anti-immigration bigotry. I see the biggest problem in the most 1930 parallels right now, the anti-immigration bigotry. And I just don't think it gets enough airtime because again, a lot of the population has been primed or gaslit to dehumanize them. And it's really painful to watch what's happening in those communities and see the human rights of other people prioritized as a greater concern than what we all are seeing right now, who ICE is targeting with an assist from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's happening. So, my wife was born an American citizen, but I know that if she's out separately and I'm out separately, it's more likely she's going to be questioned, right? Because she has a little bit darker features than I do. And I think that's obviously very antithetical to what America is. And so that makes me mad. And I also think it's why you're seeing a lot of typically kind of conservative Hispanics switching back to the Democratic Party. The Democrats are renting them at this moment. They haven't made the decision to go back to Democrats. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, and at the same time, by the way, we can't pretend anybody that says this is not race-based is just pure lying, because at the same time, we now want to open up immigration to South Afrikaners and people from white nations. Because I guarantee you, I'm German. If the Germans had a massive migration over to here now, we probably would not be as upset as we collectively, of immigration from South and Central America. And so it's purely race-based. And I mean, that's obvious when you see this in ICE, right?
Right. All right, last one. Had it or hit it, the United States of America.
I'm gonna go with hit it. I am long optimist. I'm short pessimist, but long optimist. I think when we come through all this, we're going to be a freaking awesome country when we eradicate the cancer, and we'll be stronger for it. So I'm going to go with hit it, but maybe hit it in a couple years.
Hopefully.
I think that's it's a very refreshing and real answer. And you know what? What strikes me about speaking to you is the liberation that in which you can speak, not being beholden to anything or talking points. And I think that this is something that MAGA kind of figured out before Democrats did.
Yeah, true.
And I just think that this type of new media in the face of, like you said, these monopolies and the oligarchs, and people being able to have conversations like this, you Republican, us Democrats that are really pissed off Democrats, and the common ground is so important. But anyway, I just really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, me too.
I really hope Trump doesn't charge you just because I don't trust them to not cook the books. And hello to your wife and family. And thanks again. You can come back anytime. I really enjoyed it.
I'd love to. Thanks, guys. Good being with you.
Thanks, Adam.
You bet.
I'm so struck by the people that he knows what he's talking about. He's been in Congress, obviously, political junkie. But when you're not beholden to any party platform or any corporate donors, just the liberation in which he spoke, it's just so refreshing.
Yeah, he's a good messenger because he was in the military. He understands why, here's why I became a Republican. Here's where I am now. So I think he's a really good person to talk about these evolution of ideas with.
Completely agree. All right. That's all we have. Pumps, model the book and tell them when we'll see them.
We will see you next Tuesday and Thursday.
I'll tell you what I've had it with. Let's hear it. I've had it with that. Listen up, patriots, gaytriots, and natriots. We have a new podcast that has dropped. It's called iHip News. It's Monday through Friday, every day, 15 to 20-minute hot takes on the political landscape of the United States of America, always served with a side of petty grievances.
We are on all the available platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you get your podcasts, and YouTube.
Please go rate, subscribe, and review so that we will chart upwards with America's greatest legal mind. Pumps, what does an eagle say?
Caw-caw.
A little bit more enthusiasm.
Caw-caw.
That's it. That's
caw-caw.
That's the patriotism that this country needs right there.